The Renaissance. Just saying the word makes you think of great art, doesn't it? Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, Leonardo da Vinci dreaming up flying machines. It was a time of bright colors and big ideas. But behind all that beauty and genius, there was another world, a world of shadows and secrets. Imagine you are a powerful prince in Italy or a queen in England. You have enemies everywhere. You need to send a message to your spies or your generals, but how can you be sure no one else will read it? This is where ciphers come in. They were the secret weapon of the Renaissance. As important as any sword or cannon before the Renaissance, codes were often quite simple. Think of Julius Caesar. He used a basic cipher to protect his military messages. He just shifted each letter forward by 3 places, so an A would become a D, a B would become an E, and so on. It was clever for its time, but not very hard to crack. For hundreds of years, people used similar simple tricks. They might replace letters with symbols or just swap them around, but if you were patient, you could usually figure it out. It was like a simple puzzle in a children's book. These methods were fine for a while, but they were not enough for the dangerous world of the Renaissance. The Renaissance changed everything. Suddenly, Europe was a chessboard of powerful city-states, ambitious kings, and scheming popes. Everyone was watching everyone else. A single leaked letter could start a war or bring down a monarch. Ambassadors in foreign courts wrote home in code, their letters filled with gossip and state secrets. Spies used ciphers to send back vital information about enemy plans. It was a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, played with ink and paper. The old simple codes just weren't good enough anymore. A new, more complex kind of secret writing was needed. This new age demanded new tools. The simple letter swapping of the past was child's play to the clever minds of the Renaissance. They needed codes that were much, much harder to break. The safety of kingdoms and the lives of important people depended on it, so the great thinkers of the day turned their brilliant minds to the problem. They began to invent new and fiendishly complicated ways to hide messages. This wasn't just about sending secret notes, it was about power, it was about survival. The story of Renaissance ciphers is the story of a secret arms race where the weapons were words and the battlefield was a blank piece of paper. The people of the Renaissance absolutely adored a good puzzle. This wasn't just a time of scientific discovery, it was a time of mystery and hidden meanings. If you look at a Renaissance painting, it's often not just a pretty picture, it's filled with symbols. A dog might represent loyalty. A skull might be a reminder of death. An artist wouldn't just paint a woman, he would paint an allegory of justice or truth. People loved to look for these deeper meanings to solve the visual riddle the artist had set for them. They believed that the world was full of secrets just waiting to be uncovered by those clever enough to see them. This love of puzzles perfectly matched the world of secret codes. A cipher was just another kind of riddle, but one with incredibly high stakes. It was a game of wits between the sender and the code breaker. The person writing the code created a complex puzzle, and the person trying to break it had to be clever enough to solve it. This fitted the Renaissance mindset, which celebrated human intelligence and ingenuity. They saw the universe itself as a kind of divine code, written by God, the stars, the plants, the human body. They all held secrets that could be unlocked through study and reason. Cryptography, the art of secret writing, was just one more way to explore this fascinating, puzzle-filled world. This fascination with hidden things wasn't just for artists and philosophers, it was everywhere. People wore jewelry with secret compartments. They built houses with hidden passages. They wrote poems where the first letter of each line spelled out a secret message, a trick called an acrostic. It was a culture that delighted in things not being quite what they seemed. They loved the idea that beneath the surface of everyday life, there was a hidden layer of meaning, a secret story that only the initiated could understand. It's no wonder, then, that this was the perfect environment for the art of the cipher to blossom and grow. So, when we think about the rise of complex ciphers during this period, we need to remember this cultural backdrop. The development of cryptography wasn't just a practical response to political needs, it was also an expression of the Renaissance spirit. It was a reflection of a society that was obsessed with secret symbols and the power of the hidden word. The same intellectual curiosity that drove explorers to cross oceans and scientists to study the stars also drove cryptographers to create ever more elaborate and beautiful systems for concealing thought. The cipher was, in its own way, a work of art. For a long time, ciphers had a major weakness. They always swapped one letter for the same symbol or letter. So if E was the most common letter in a secret message, you could guess that the symbol it was replaced with probably stood for E. This is called frequency analysis, and it made breaking codes much easier. But then a brilliant Renaissance man named Leon Battista Alberti came along. Alberti was a true genius, an architect, a painter, a poet, and a philosopher, and in the 1460s he invented something that would change the world of secret codes forever: the cipher disk. Alberti's disk was a wonderfully clever device. It was made of two copper circles, one larger than the other, fixed together in the center so they could spin. The outer larger ring had the letters of the alphabet written on it in order. The inner smaller ring had the alphabet scrambled up. To write a secret message, you and your friend would agree on a key. For example, you might agree that the G's on the outer ring should line up with the K on the inner ring. You would then write a few letters of your message using this setting. An A might become a T, a B might become an X, and so on. But here is the truly brilliant part. After writing a few letters, you would change the setting. You would include a special capital letter in your secret message, say a P. This was a signal to your friend to turn the inner disk so that the P on the outer ring now lined up with the K. Suddenly all the letter substitutions changed. Now an A might become a G and a B might become a Q. This was a revolution. It was the first polyalphabetic cipher, meaning it used multiple alphabets to encode a single message. The letter E might be a K in one part of the message, a P in another, and a W in a third. This made the old code-breaking trick of frequency analysis completely useless. You could no longer just count the letters to figure out the code. Alberti's invention was a huge leap forward. It made ciphers incredibly difficult to break for anyone who didn't know the secret key and the system for changing it. It was like going from a simple padlock to a modern combination lock. For the next 400 years, most of the advanced ciphers that were developed were based on Alberti's brilliant idea of using multiple alphabets. He had truly unlocked a new level in the game of secrets, creating a challenge that would perplex the best minds for centuries to come. Nowhere were these new, complex ciphers more important than in the dangerous world of royal politics. And there is no more famous or tragic story about a broken code than that of Mary, Queen of Scots. In the 1580s, Mary was a prisoner in England. She had been forced off the throne of Scotland and had fled south, seeking help from her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. But Mary was a Catholic, and many Catholics in England believed she was the rightful queen, not the Protestant Elizabeth. So Elizabeth kept her under lock and key for nearly 20 years. It was a very tense situation. Mary was desperate to escape and reclaim her power. From her confinement, she began to communicate secretly with a group of young Catholic noblemen who were plotting to assassinate Elizabeth and put Mary on the throne. This was the Babington plot. To keep their plans secret, they used a sophisticated cipher. It was a substitution cipher, but a very complicated one. It didn't just replace letters with other letters, it used a mix of symbols, letters, and even numbers. There were special symbols for common words like and the, and code names for important people like Mary and Elizabeth. The plotters thought their messages were perfectly safe. They smuggled their coded letters in and out of Mary's prison, hidden in the hollowed-out bung of a beer barrel. It sounds like something from a spy film, doesn't it? Mary wrote letters agreeing to the plot, encouraging the conspirators. She believed her secret code would protect her. What she didn't know was that Queen Elizabeth's spymaster, the cunning Sir Francis Walsingham, knew all about the letters. He had a double agent working for him, who was intercepting every single message that went in or out of that beer barrel. Walsingham's team had the letters, but they were still in code. He needed a brilliant mind to crack them. He turned to his expert cryptanalyst, a man named Thomas Philippos. Philippos was a master of languages and puzzles. He patiently studied the coded messages, looking for patterns, making guesses, and slowly, piece by piece, he broke the cipher. He even cleverly forged a postscript onto one of Mary's letters to trick the plotters into revealing the names of all their accomplices. The decoded letters were the smoking gun. They proved, in Mary's own words, that she was involved in a plot to kill Elizabeth. She was put on trial for treason, found guilty, and in 1587 she was beheaded. A secret code had sealed her fate. For some Renaissance thinkers, ciphers were more than just a tool for spies and ambassadors. They were a form of magic. They believed that secret writing could do more than just hide words. It could connect them to a hidden spiritual world. One of the most fascinating figures in this world was Johannes Trithemius, a German abbot and scholar. In 1518, he wrote a book called Steganographia, which at first glance looks like a book of spells for summoning angels and spirits. It was so strange and controversial that it wasn't even fully published for over 100 years. The book is divided into 3 parts. The first 2 parts describe a system for communicating over vast distances using spirits as messengers. Trithemius gives long, rambling incantations that you are supposed to chant to send your message. For example, to send a message via the spirit Pamael, you would have to recite a complex ritual. It all sounds very supernatural, but for centuries, scholars suspected there was something else going on. They believed that hidden within all this magical language, there was a rational system of cryptography. They were right. It turns out that Steganographia is one of the most brilliant early books on secret codes ever written. Trithemius had hidden his cryptographic systems inside a book of magic. He used the magical text as a clever cover. The real secret was a method for hiding a message inside another innocent-looking piece of writing. For example, by taking the second letter of every word in one of his magical spells, you could spell out a completely different hidden message. It was a brilliant disguise. He was teaching people about ciphers while pretending to teach them about magic. Another important figure was the Italian scholar Giambattista della Porta. He was a true Renaissance man, a scientist, a playwright, and a founder of one of the first scientific societies. He was also fascinated by secrets. In 1563, he published a book called De Furtivis Literarum Notis, which means On Secret Writing. It was a fantastic collection of all the cryptographic knowledge of the time. He described different kinds of ciphers, including substitution and transposition ciphers, and he even described Alberti's disk. But he also included chapters on ancient secret inks and other strange ways of hiding messages. For men like Porter and Trithemius, cryptography was a powerful and mysterious art, a key to unlocking the hidden side of reality. For every clever person creating a new cipher, there was another equally clever person trying to break it. The rise of complex codes in the Renaissance created a new kind of expert, the professional code breaker or cryptanalyst. These were the intellectual detectives of their day. They didn't work in palaces or lead armies, but their work could be just as important. They operated in quiet rooms, surrounded by captured letters, charts, and notes. Their weapons were logic, patience, and a deep understanding of language. A single success could change the course of a war or uncover a deadly plot against a king. One of the greatest of these early code breakers was a Frenchman named François Viette. Today we remember Viette as a brilliant mathematician, one of the fathers of modern algebra. But in the late 16th century, he was also the chief codebreaker for King Henry IV of France. At the time, France was torn apart by religious wars between Catholics and Protestants. King Henry was fighting against the Catholic League, which was supported by King Philip II of Spain. Philip's court used a very complex cipher to communicate with their allies in France. It had over 500 different symbols and was considered completely unbreakable. The Spanish sent their coded messages with confidence, believing no one could possibly read them, but they hadn't reckoned with the genius of François Viette. For 2 years, Viette worked tirelessly on the Spanish cipher. He gathered as many coded messages as he could and began his painstaking work. He used his mathematical mind to look for patterns and repetitions, applying logic where others saw only chaos. Slowly but surely, he began to find the weak spots. Eventually, he cracked the entire system. He gave King Henry the key, allowing the French to read all of the Spanish secret messages. When the Spanish found out, they were furious and utterly astonished. They couldn't believe their unbreakable cipher had been solved. They complained to the Pope, accusing King Henry of using black magic because they insisted that only a sorcerer could have read their secret letters. The Pope, however, was not convinced. Viette's success shows how the battle between code makers and code breakers have become a serious intellectual arms race. It wasn't magic, it was brain power. And as the ciphers got more complex, the methods for breaking them had to become more scientific and systematic too. The secret codes of the Renaissance may seem like ancient history, but their legacy is all around us. The ideas born in that period of intense creativity and suspicion laid the groundwork for the secret world we live in today. Every time you send an email, buy something online, or use your bank card at a cash machine, you are using a descendant of those Renaissance ciphers. The polyalphabetic system, first imagined by Alberti with his clever disk, is the great-great-grandfather of the complex encryption that protects our digital lives. The fundamental problem is exactly the same: how to share information securely so that only the right person can read it. The duel between the codemaker and the codebreaker, which reached such dramatic heights with people like Mary, Queen of Scots, and François Viet, continues to this day. Governments employ teams of brilliant mathematicians and computer scientists to create unbreakable codes to protect national secrets. At the same time, other teams are employed to try and break the codes of other nations. This secret war, fought with algorithms instead of ink and paper, is a direct continuation of the battles of wits that began in the courts of Renaissance Europe. The stakes are just as high now as they were then, involving national security, economic stability, and personal privacy. Even our love of secrets and puzzles hasn't gone away. The Renaissance fascination with hidden meanings in art and literature lives on in our popular culture. We love spy movies with their secret gadgets and coded messages. We're fascinated by books like The Da Vinci Code, which are built around the idea of ancient secrets and hidden symbols. This tells us something important about ourselves. We're still captivated by the idea that there is more to the world than meets the eye. We are drawn to the thrill of the chase, the intellectual challenge of solving a puzzle and uncovering a hidden truth. Ultimately, the story of Renaissance ciphers is about more than just politics and war. It is a story about a fundamental human desire. It's about the desire to conceal and the desire to reveal. It's about our fascination with mystery and our relentless search for meaning, even when it is deliberately hidden from us. The beautiful, complex ciphers of the Renaissance are a testament to human ingenuity. They remind us that for centuries we have been obsessed with the power of the hidden word, and that the search for secrets and the methods we invent to protect them is a story that is far from over.